Hi YouTube friends, and welcome into episode 11 of the Thoughtful Knitter video journal. My name's Ailie and I'm coming to you from my home in the far north of the Scottish mainland. This channel has been woefully neglected of late. I think it's been about 2 months since I last recorded, so I can only apologise for that, but if you're a first time viewer then you won't notice. So welcome in if that's you, and thanks for bearing with me and being patient if you're a returning viewer. What to tell you? The longer I leave it between recording videos, the more tongue-tied and nervous I get. So if there's lots of breaks in the video and editing, that is the reason. I can only apologise. Yeah, it's been a while. I don't really have a proper excuse other than life just got a bit busy. It's summertime, there's always a lot going on with people visiting and new events opening back up again now that COVID is kind of over. Yeah, it's been busy and I've been finding it hard to set aside time to record, and the longer I've left it, the more content I have accumulated. But what I've decided to do is just kind of draw a line under it and only talk about the finished objects that I have completed most recently and the works in progress that I am actively working on at the moment. So I should have said in the introduction, but this is a knitting journal, so I'm going to talk about all the kind of usual things like what I'm working on, what I plan to be working on, what I've finished, that sort of thing. And yeah, and I try to keep my videos on the shorter side. They've been gradually getting longer and longer and I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to try really hard to keep to the kind of half-hour mark today, and hopefully that will give me the kick in the backside that I need to keep recording on a more regular basis, because I do prefer to have them shorter. The premise of the channel was that I would have shorter episodes that were more accessible to people like me who struggle with fatigue and who have to spend their days pacing their energy levels, and I want to provide somewhere that you don't have to think about pacing for a change. So with that said, the videos are split up into sections and you'll find them time-stamped in the description box below. So yeah, just navigate around as you like, and that means that you'll not have to cut me off mid-sentence. You can just watch a section and come back another time. Yeah, so enough whittering. What I have today is, as I said, the usual knitting content, but also the winner of last episode's giveaway. You had plenty of opportunity to enter because it's been about 8 weeks that the video's been up. So I had asked you to comment with your small wins, and I'd really encourage you to have a look at those because, oh my goodness, they gave me cheer over the last few weeks. It was really, really enjoyable to read them and see all the little things that were making you happy and things that you were celebrating. And some of them were really huge wins. So that was great. Thanks for taking part in that. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you who won because you've waited long enough. The winner of the £25 Black Rail Yarns gift voucher is Kelly Carnegie. So I'll put her entry on the screen here, and Kelly is a teacher and she had to take some time off work to look after her poorly toddler, and when she went back to work, one of her students had asked why she'd been off and told her that she had missed her, and that had made Kelly's day, and I can see why. That's just adorable. So well done, Kelly, for celebrating those small wins, and thanks to everybody else for participating too. And Kelly, I hope you enjoy perusing Julie's website and choosing something with the vouchers. So if you can get in touch with me, probably the best way is by email. So the email for this channel is thethoughtfulknitter@gmail.com, and just let me know your email address so that I can get that voucher off to you. On that note, there is also an Instagram account for this channel. it is at The Thoughtful Knitter, and you'll find any Instagram links to anything that I mentioned there, and you'll also find show notes to everything that I mention in the description box down below. Right, boring admin stuff over, let's get on to the knitting content and start off with what I'm wearing. You may remember this top from my last episode. This was a test knit, and it was released just a couple of months ago. It is the Strawberry Fields top, so I have eventually found a way to wear it that doesn't mean I freeze in the weather in the far north of Scotland. So yeah, that's on. I'm wearing that, but I'm not going to chat about that because I did in my last episode, so I'll put a wee link in to that episode if you want to go back and find out some more about it. But the one I'm going to tell you about today is a recent, well, not so recent, but in the last few months finished object, and this is a lovely long cardigan. Hopefully you got a wee bit of a look there. This is a lovely long cardigan made out of Eden Cottage yarns, Bowland 4-ply in the colourway Starling. Now, I actually mentioned this yarn in my very first episode because at that point I'd already had it in stash for about 2.5–3 years and was talking about trying to find something to knit with it. And at that point I was thinking about knitting the Corrie cardigan by Natasha Hornby, but I came across this one, and this is called the Zwartbles, and it's by, I'm going to write it all on the screen, Marie-Amélie Designs. So she is a French designer, and I can't remember when it was, but it was some point in the early part of this year. She's decided to step away from designing, and she made all of her patterns free. So this is a properly, professionally written and tech edited pattern, but it's now available for free, which is incredible. So I grabbed it at the time and thought, that's lovely. I'll put a picture in of what the actual design looks like because I modified it a wee bit. So the actual design has like a kind of textured stitch. Here it's knits and purls that are kind of alternated, and then it's got a reverse stocking stitch sleeve, and then it's got this lovely lace and cable detail down the front. But I just wanted something really quite simple, especially because this yarn is kind of tonal but with speckles. I don't know if you can see. So it's got the tonal parts of the lighter greys. It's also got some rusts that are showing up, and it does have yellows too, but they're not really showing. But believe me, they're there. Yeah, so I actually, for about the first time ever, got gauge the same as the designer with the same size of needles. So I knit according to pattern, but like I said, I altered those details, just made it really, really plain in this part. It's a saddle shoulder construction, so it fits really well, sits on your shoulders well. I lengthened the body and sleeves a bit. Sorry, I'll get comfortable again. I lengthened the body and sleeves by a few inches because that's what I normally have to do. But because this is superwash wool, it stretched even further, which is fine lengthwise, but I now have sleeves that are a little bit too long. So this is what it should look like, and it's, let me see, it's kind of down there. So what I've been doing is just tucking it up and wearing it like that. But my plan is, when I stop being lazy, to pull this back and just re-knit a shorter rib so that it's in keeping with the side bit here, because that's a short rib. There's a longer rib at the bottom, which is how long the sleeves were. Yeah, so I think that's all there was to tell you about that one, other than I just wanted to draw it to your attention because it's free it's a beautiful pattern, and she has a huge number of other designs that are also really lovely. So I'd encourage you to have a look on her. I think she's possibly only available through Ravelry, because she doesn't she doesn't sell herself anymore. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing. Let's go on to finished objects. I only have 2 finished objects to tell you about today because I'm trying to keep it short. And one of them I don't actually have on me because it has gone to my niece, and that is the Fia vest that I featured in last episode. I'll put a picture in of the finished object and also of the design. So this was a little vest that is designed by Kelly Menzies, who is Roro and Cade's. And I had made life more complicated for myself by deciding to knit it in a self-striping yarn, and because I am a neat freak and a perfectionist, I didn't want my stripes to get all muddled when I started doing smaller areas of knitting when I was splitting for the top part for the back and the front. So I added in some steeks. So yeah, you can hear more about it in the last episode, but I cut the steeks in the last episode and then just finished it all off, and I'm happy to report that it fits her perfectly. I was a bit concerned that it would maybe be a bit small because I think I knitted it using the same needle sizes as the pattern states, and I generally have to go up a needle size. But thankfully it fits her and she looks very, very cute. So yeah, that was a great one, and I'll definitely be knitting some more of those, probably in a plainer yarn, so I'm not footering about with steeks. But yeah, I'm really chuffed with that one, and like I say, she looks super cute in it, and I think it'll be a really good pattern to have in my library for when people are coming along having babies, because these little kind of vest tops, or tank tops is what we call them in the UK, are really useful because it helps to give a little bit of warmth, but the little kiddies don't overheat. So it's nice layering, and it's also a bit more fun to knit than a cardigan because you're knitting in the round mostly and you're not having to faff about with picking up button bands and things. So yeah, that was my first finished object that you'll only have seen a picture of. But my second finished object is also on the same theme. It was one that I was knitting last time, and it is the allium cardigan. So this is it. I'm calling it a finished object, but you'll notice it doesn't have any buttons yet. But this is going to be going to my niece, I think probably for her birthday, which is coming up in September, because I think this will be a really good kind of jacket almost for the winter when they're going out in the car and things. I should hold it still. This is, that's an end, and I have sewn it in, I promise, but I don't like cutting it too short because you end up, it just pulls out somewhere else anyway. So let's see. It's kind of hard to show you when I don't have the buttons in. That was a bit silly. But yeah, it is made up of lots of twisted stitches and baubles, and I modified this in that I knit I think it was 12 months, yeah, I knit the 12-month size, but I actually increased the yarn size and the needle size accordingly. So it was meant to be knit on double knit, and I can't remember the needle size, but what I did is I was using up old yarn that I had left over from a blanket that I'd knit for my niece when she was born. I wanted to use up the rest of it, so this is Debbie Bliss Cashmerino, yes, Debbie Bliss Cashmerino Aran, and the colourway is Lime. So this is an Aran weight yarn, and I increased the needle size, I think by two needle sizes. So I used a 4.5 for the main body and 4mm for the twisted rib. And my plan for buttons is these cute things. So they're like tiny little leaves. So I've got 3 of those, and I think they will fit very nicely along here, like so. So again, when I stop being lazy and actually do all the finishing and not just the knitting, that will be a completely finished object. But I tend to call anything that I've finished on the knitting a finished object. I don't know if I'm the only one, but blocking. I take forever to block something. I can have it knitted and completed, and even sewing in the ends I can do. Don't love it, but I can do it. I put it off. But blocking takes me forever. So yeah, this one was complete ages ago, and I only blocked it last week. So yes, those are my finished objects. Okay, works in progress. So I've only got 2 of these as well, so that I don't witter on too long. The first one is a pair of socks, which I mentioned, I think, in my last episode that I was going to be starting a knit along with a friend. So we have been doing that. So a wee shout out to Aran, who I am doing this with and who I have known for quite a few years now through Instagram. And we actually met up in person, I think it was over Easter, because she visits this area quite a lot, and she's from the Netherlands, but she comes over here quite a lot, and we met up and had a coffee and a chat and bought some yarn while we were doing so and decided on this knit along. We are knitting Catherine Macaulay, which is a pattern by Kate Davies Designs. I'll put a picture in. And it is a toe up sock, and it has what I am reliably informed is called a fleagle heel. So I've only ever knit top up and toe up, top down, cuff down, is that the word? Cuff down and toe up socks, both of those, but I've only ever done a heel flap and gusset. So I was knitting along on this one and got to the heel, and I kept like rechecking the pattern because it was like I was missing something and it was too easy. So I asked a group of very experienced knitters that I know, and they reliably informed me that it's a fleagle heel. So here we go, I'll show you what they look like so far. Oh, it's a tangled mess. Oh, good grief. Sorry, you think I might have prepared. So I am knitting them 2 at a time, which I didn't think through properly because trying to knit heels 2 at a time in this method seems to be impossible. So there was a lot of faffing around, pulling things off the needles and whatnot, but I'll show you the heel. I don't know if you can see. So it seems it'll be easier on this one. So it just goes there. So there's no there is a gusset, but there's no, is that called the heel flap or the gusset? Anyway, there's one and not the other. And then it's twisted stitches, which are only worked on the front. Doesn't focus. It's not very easy to see. Twisted stitches that are knitted just in the front for the foot and then the whole way around for the leg. I am knitting these on 2.5mm needles and I use magic loop. I can't get on with DPNs no matter how hard I try. I think it's Ruth from Ruth Loves to Knit podcast. If you don't watch her, you should. I love Ruth. She's just really jolly, and she's always, oh, I shouldn't say that, I remember I remember somebody else called her jolly once and she was reminded of the Jolly Green Giant, so sorry. No, she's delightful. And she's always knitting with really bright and fun colours. And she's Northern Irish, so she has a great accent. Anyway, all that to say, Ruth calls DPNs devil sticks, and I think that is the absolute best description I have ever heard in my life. So I'll probably pinch it from her. So yes, I knit with Magic Loop, and what was I going to tell you? What we're knitting with is John Arbon Textiles Exmoor sock, and the colourway is Hemel. Now, this yarn is quite, I don't know how to describe it, it feels sturdy. It feels like it'll last. It's got some nylon in it, I think it's 10%, and it's also 60% Exmoor Blueface, which is Superwash, 20% Corriedale, which is Superwash, 10% Zwartbles, I don't know how you say that. That's how I'm saying it, and 10% nylon. So yeah, they feel sturdy, and I think they will be a long-lasting sock. What I should have done if I was a proper YouTuber is I would have put them on a sock blogger, but I haven't. So this is something else I want to ask you. I bought this. Goodness knows why, because I've only knit, this is only my third pair of adult socks that I've ever knit, so I don't know why I bought a sock blogger. But I bought this thinking it would be, you know, amazing, it would really help me with my sock knitting, it would make things easier, but I haven't got the foggiest how this thing works, because it's got like a size guide here, and then it's got measurements here, but this doesn't correspond to the sizes whatsoever. So you still have to like measure from here to set your size so that it's the right length. So if anyone can tell me what this is all about, it's not even as if it goes from 0 up. So I don't know, is it like to do with so far after your toe or something? I can see that this might be useful because it's telling you how long your leg is. But yeah, I don't know the point in it. And I would be delighted if someone could help me out and tell me what the point in it is. Because otherwise I've just spent a fortune on something that's quite useless. A fortune. It's not a fortune, but it was unnecessary. Anyway, I digress. So yes, those are my socks, and yeah, I'm not too far from finishing. I think I'm going to try to knit up most of these balls. So for anyone who hasn't used, oh what a mess, who hasn't used John Arbon Exmoor sock before, they come in 50g mini hanks. So that's why I decided to do it 2 at a time. And I do have a yarn caker, but sometimes I just quite like hand winding a ball. I think it's because I love the feeling of wool, it just comforts me. And there's sometimes times when I just don't have the brain power or the energy for knitting or thinking about knitting. If I'm at a point, there's not an easy point in a pattern that or a project that I can just do stocking stitch on. So on those times I'll just wind wool, and I love it. So yeah, those are my first rather ugly looking work in progress. Maybe next time, if someone can explain to me how that sock blogger works, I'll have them displayed better for you. Please. My second work in progress is really quite exciting. It is a test knit, and I know I don't really like test knits, and I don't know why I keep applying for them, but again, as with this one, it was a project that I really loved the stitch detail, and I thought that would be amazing to knit, and I really need to knit it, and I need to knit it now. So I have been selected, I've been very lucky to be selected as one of the test knitters for the Cargill sweater. So I'm sure a lot of you, probably most of you, already know about Rebecca of the Corriedale podcast. So this is her first design, and I'm one of the lucky few that is getting to test knit it. And I'm happy to report that so far it's everything I hoped it would be. It's a beautiful, beautiful stitch pattern and really fun to knit as well. So I'm going to put a picture in. She knit hers with a fingering weight yarn and mohair held together. But I decided that I would go for a sport weight yarn instead, because I want to have something that is as lightweight as possible for the gauge, and which means I can wear it all the time. You know, it'll be less heavy and less hot and a more comfortable temperature for wearing. So I decided that I would knit it in Derera Natura Ulysse. That's my dodgy French accent. Don't know if that's right or not. And I don't know why I've got a mania for picking colours that don't show up on camera. But this is like a really deep rust red, but it's redder than it's showing on here. This looks more orangey. And so the colourway is Érable. You see that? Again with the dodgy French accent. Yeah, so I had decided I was going to knit it in this. But I had put my order in, applied for the test, put my order in the same day, but it took a wee while to arrive. So Rebecca had released the pattern to us all, everybody else was swatching away. I felt the fear of missing out, FOMO, was incredible. I just wanted to get going with it. So I thought, well, it could be that I can't get gauge on this because of the fact that I'm such a tight knitter. So I thought, well, what I could do while I'm waiting is swatch with some things from Stash. So I did, and I went a bit daft. So first of all, I knitted with this one, which previous viewers should possibly recognise. This is Black Veil Yarns Cullen Sock, the old version, in the colourway Rock Pull, and it was in a jumper called The Green by Ankestrict that I pulled out and decided I'll repurpose for something else. So I had also found some mohair. Anyone who's watched before has known that I'm not really much of a mohair hand. Again, these colours are not showing. That's greener, that is not blue. Anyway, I'm not much of a mohair hand. I think I've just been scarred by being a child of the 90s, and it just makes me think of itchy and scratchy, hot, sweaty, horrible tops. But now that I've worked with it, I can see what the hype is about. So anyway, I swatched these together and came up with this, which I actually really like. I had done the stocking stitch and I wasn't that fussed on the stocking stitch. I just thought it was still a bit too busy, but I really like it on this dip stitch pattern, and I think it's the dark mohair up against the paler background really kind of gives it quite good definition. So I haven't chosen to work with this, but I think I now know what I'm going to do with this yarn, which is hold it together with this and at some point make a sorrel. I will put a picture in of a sorrel sweater. For anyone who doesn't know what it is, I think it's by a design by Wool and Pine, I think. So yeah, that was my first option, and then I thought I loved it, but I didn't think it was right for the test because I want to show off Rebecca's pattern or the stitch pattern as well as I can, and I thought something would be lost with all that variegation. So while I was waiting as well, I also swatched with some woolly knit cones that I had. So these are woolly knit British wool, and they are like a light fingering weight, so held together they're like a DK. They're not showing up perfectly. So this one is called Morning Frost, and it's kind of like a marled light grey. So it's got quite a nice sweatshirty look to it. And then this one, I really liked this one, but felt that it was just a bit too thick. So this, I got gauge with this. I mean, it looks quite opaque, not opaque, transparent, held up like that, but it's not. But yeah, I felt this one was just a little bit too thick and hot, and that I would, you know, it would be another one of these jumpers that is maybe more fit for outdoor use than being inside in the central heating. So that is gorgeous. I love it. But I think what I'm going to do with this one is make a cabled cardigan out of it. Hopefully some point over the winter, but we will see when. So yeah, those were another couple of swatches, and then eventually my Elise arrived and I did this swatch and decided that it was perfect because I have been a bit obsessed with rust recently. I'm going to speak about it a little bit later, but I was at a tiny little yarn event at the very beginning of July, and one of the vendors was Zwartbles Crafts, who is a yarn dyer, an indie yarn dyer based up in Ascent on the northwest Highlands, Helen, and she had a colourway that I was obsessed with. I really wanted it, but she didn't have it in the base that I wanted, and it was called Old Bower Door, and it was really similar to this colour. So when it came to knitting up the cargill, I thought this would be quite a nice substitute, and it's also quite lightweight because the Elise is a woolen spun yarn, so it's light but warm. So yeah, you'll be able to see it's just like a dip stitch pattern and rib alternated. So I'll show you where I've got so far. Here we go. How lovely is that? Oh my god, I love it. It's squish. The squish is incredible. I've already put the collar on because I wanted to make sure that it fitted, you know, I could tell where it was going to lie. At the moment it looks really bunched up and as if it's going to be tiny, but as you can see from this swatch, it's going to block right out like that. So, so far I have done the yoke, I've split for the sleeves, and I have just started on the body. Oh, I'm all cables here. So I'll give you a close-up. Let you appreciate the beauty of it. So yeah, I am really, really chuffed with this and massively impressed with Rebecca. How she managed to grade this up to, I think it's 11 sizes, doing increases in pattern. So what I love about this stitch is, because I am not a fan of just plain stocking stitch unless I'm really, really tired, and I mean there's definitely a time and a place for it. But what I love about this is it's a 4-row repeat and you're doing something on 3 of those rows. It's not difficult, but you're doing something and it's holding your interest. So how she managed to get all her calculations, because they're all correct, for 11 sizes is just, it blows my mind. I don't know how she did it, but this is just going to be a huge squish fest of a jumper, and I'm going to wear it the absolute bejesus out of it over the autumn. I'm going to be living in this, and it might even take on a life of its own because I live in it so much. Yeah, so I have used 2 balls so far. These come in 50-gram balls, so this has taken me up to the split. I did start a sleeve last night, but I was doing it on Magic Loop and it was just a bit of a scutter, and I decided instead I'm going to order like a 12-inch circular needle, because I think it's quite a large sleeve. It's as far as I can work out, it's the same length right to the end and then cinches in. So I think that'll just make life a lot easier. So at the moment it's going to sit until that arrives. So yeah, those are my works in progress. I'm going to stop cuddling this now if I can, and let's just have a really quick chat about what I've been up to over the last wee while. So it's been a while, and like I said in the introduction, I'm not entirely sure what I've been doing other than just living, working, seeing family. Like I said, there's been quite a few extra events back on this summer, and we've had family visiting, and yeah, summer's just quite a busy time, and as you know, I don't have a huge amount of energy, so something has to give, and unfortunately it's been recording these. But I have still been knitting, and I even managed to get to a small yarn festival. So it was called Highland Meet the Maker, and it was on Friday the 1st of July. And there's going to be another 2 events. The next one is coming up quite soon. I think, let me double check so I don't give you the wrong information. The next one is on Thursday the 25th of August, and then the 3rd one is on Thursday the 8th of September. So I mean, I realise that the vast majority of you will not be able to attend a yarn festival in Drumnadrochit in the Highlands, but on the off chance that you're in Scotland anyway for a holiday, or you're maybe you live in Scotland and you're just wanting to see something a bit different, then I would highly recommend this event. It's the first time it's been run. It's been run by Loch Ness Knitting and Zwartbles Crafts, who I mentioned earlier, and the calibre of vendor was just exquisite. There was only, I think there were possibly only 10 vendors at it, but they were all really, really, really high calibre. And I just had such a lovely time. I actually met up with somebody who I know from Instagram and who also watches this channel, Hen in a Glen, and who also has the best Instagram handle ever. So I had a really lovely time with her. It meant that I had someone to go with, so I wasn't billing no mates, and we just wandered around, looked at everything, chatted to all the vendors, had a cup of tea and some lunch afterwards, and it was such a lovely day. And when I'm speaking about Hen in the Glen, if on the off chance, I don't know if there are any designers out there, but if you are and you're looking for a tech editor, then she has recently set up business and has had really, really good reports so far. And I can tell you that she has a background in science, so her attention to detail is fantastic and her technical knowledge is top notch as well. So yeah, so there's something to look into if you're a designer. Yeah, so the event was just wonderful. It was in Blairbeck Hall in Drumnadrochit. It's like a really old fashioned village hall with a high roof. So it didn't feel claustrophobic or too busy. There were people in all the time, but it wasn't overrun with people. So it meant you had plenty of time to chat to the vendors. I was completely overwhelmed and I didn't buy a single hank of yarn. It wasn't for want of trying. I did try to buy from Zwartbles Crafts, as I've mentioned, but she didn't have the yarn in the base that I wanted. And I also was going to try and buy something to go with another yarn that I have of Julie of Black Girl Yarns, but again she didn't have it in the colour that I wanted. And I almost bought something from another independent dyer called Bowfiddle Yarns. She had these lovely kits that were for Tunisian crochet, and it included the pattern for like a shawl. But as we've established before, I don't really wear shawls, so I really need to stop making them. But yeah, I was this close to buying one. Yeah, so it was lovely. I say I didn't buy anything, but I did. I bought this lovely little bag, which I just thought was gorgeous. And it was by a maker called Red Ruby Rose, who's based over in Gairloch in the West Highlands. And what she does is she takes these photos and then has them graphically printed onto material, and then she's got linens that she botanically dyes this linen for the lining. I think she said it was meadowsweet is what this was dyed with. So at least I got something to show for my trip, but no yarn. So yeah, that's the most exciting thing I've been up to yarn related, I would say. And yeah, I just wanted to let you know about it because especially the one in September, it's quite close to Perth Festival of Yarn, which is that weekend. So the September one is on Thursday the 8th of September, and then Perth Festival of Yarn is the Saturday and the Sunday following that, so the 10th and the 11th. So anyone who's kind of making a trip for Perth, maybe they want to add an extra day, go up to Inverness, and because Drumnadroch, it's only about half an hour from Inverness, and it's obviously very beautiful. It's on the shores of Loch Ness, and yeah, so I thought I would draw that to your attention. The other thing to say is that I won't be going to Perth Festival of Yarn. I think a couple of people had asked, but I'm afraid I won't be going. But I will be watching on and seeing what everybody else is up to, and probably thanking my bank balance that I haven't gone. So yeah, I think that's all my chit chat for today. I'm gonna head off now and try and get this edited and up before another month passes. And like I said earlier, I'm really going to try and be more consistent with these. I think little and often seems to work better for me. So even if I end up having to batch record, that might be an option too, and just do the editing bit by bit. But we will see. So in the meantime, take care everybody. Happy knitting, happy crafting, and we'll see you again soon.